Everybody, welcome to I guess a second episode of Beyond the Bell here on Fightful, but this is a little different. This is not the traditional show that I'm doing. This is something we're going to be doing hopefully monthly, where we bring in a cool, interesting, fascinating person from the pro wrestling industry. I'm glad to do this today because my guest, we've been talking about coming on the show and doing anything for a while now, and it finally lined up, and we delayed it a couple of weeks, but I thought this was perfect timing since we are debuting the show on Fightful today. So we're going to hit you with a double whammy. You're going to get the first episode, and now you're going to get this interview episode that we hopefully will continue doing, and I'm going to bring in my guest here. I love supporting independent talent, especially if they're from my area, especially if they're from New York. It is a tough thing to break out in pro wrestling in general, and this dude has been doing tremendous stuff. I want to introduce Vinny Pacifico here. What's going on, Vinny?
Thank you for having me.
Dude, we've been
Appreciate
talking for a
much.
while. We've been talking for a while about doing this, and finally it worked out. So I'm super thrilled to have you here. It's amazing to see your career from the beginning, really. And we were just talking off the air. You didn't know this, and it kind of hit me a couple nights ago that this had happened. I called an early match of yours in Long Island, in Deer Park, and you got injured on that match.
Yeah.
I don't listen. I haven't even. Did you flip in the ring and bust your knee, or was it on the outside?
It was in the ring. It was in the ring. I must have been 16, 17 years old. I'm pretty sure my meniscus or my MCL was torn. Flipped into the ring.
There you go.
And I don't know what. I think it was a battle royal. So someone bumped as I landed. So the ring popped up into my. I don't know. It was bad. And it sucked.
Yeah, my a friend of mine was the promoter for that event. Kyle, he was a promoter for that event, and I remember I just because the name resonated because I thought it was such a cool name, Vinny Pacifico. Like it just like I was like, okay, I'm into that name, you know. And then you came out, and I'm calling it, and he flipped in the ring, and that was your knee went, and that was it. I was like, oh crap, I had no idea you were that young.
Yeah, and thank you for the name compliment. I get that a lot. People think it's not even my name, but it is. So it's like people are like, oh, what's your real name? And I'm like Pacifico, and they're like, no, it's not. I'm like,
Oh, great
yeah,
name.
It is. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, from the legendary Pacifico family in Staten Island.
Legendary, yes.
Legendary.
We're all legends.
So when did you start wrestling? I mean, if you were 16 years old when I saw you, 16, 17 years old, when was the first time you got in a ring? You're like, I'm going to start training.
14.
Wow.
I really got my early start with ECPW, with Aaron Bradley, Sonny Kiss, Mike Orlando, the Graysons, and that's where we started. I was there for like 7 or 8 months. Trained there for a very long time. No, sorry, trained there. Went to Warriors for a very long time, and then from there went to Ring of Honor. And Ring of Honor is where I got my really good start. Ring of Honor is where I learned pretty much almost every style of professional wrestling under Cheeseburger, Delirious, Will Ferrara, Rhett Titus, Jonathan Gresham. And that is, I give a lot of my credit as becoming a man to Ring of Honor because the people at that school are just all amazing people. So I made sure to spend my time with them as much as possible so I could like learn from them in more ways than just wrestling. And Cheeseburger, somebody took me under his wing and traveled with me. We did a lot together. And I give him so much credit because he's just an amazing person and someone who I hold very close to my heart. And also my groomsmen, my wedding.
Oh, really? That's great.
Yeah, Rhett Cheeseburger and Rhett Titus were both my groomsmen.
Oh, that's awesome. So, you know, doing that at 14 years old, do you think that helped you because you started so young? Or do you think it was a little bit of a detriment? Like, if you had to do it again, would you have started at 14 or would you have waited a little bit more?
It's a blessing and a curse because I missed out on a lot of like high school or like middle school stuff, like, you know, doing prom. I missed all my proms, which, you know, I mean, no big deal. I mean, honestly, I would do it again because granted, I'm not where I want to be yet in wrestling. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm very blessed to be in the spot that I'm in. I gotten to do some really, really cool things that a lot of people don't get to do. So I'm very blessed. So I wouldn't change anything about the time I started. But I had, like I said, it came with a little bit of sacrifice. I missed a lot of family. I missed a lot of funerals. I missed a lot of parties, a lot of family moments, a lot of first birthdays, second birthdays of my family members. So, but wrestling comes with sacrifice. Like I said, I missed the prom, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because I'm married now and I'm very lucky to be with who I'm with now. So at the end of the day, I'm happy with my decision that I made. And I think the fact that I was able to meet the people I met, who I learned from, helped shape the man I am today, and I'm very lucky for that. So that's why I'm very happy to be where I am and have started when I did.
I love hearing the story. Like, you were so young getting into it. Like, if you grew up with wrestling being a major part of your life, pro wrestling being a major part of your life, I think at some level, if you're so into it as much as Vinny or myself or people watching this are that into wrestling, something ticks and you're like, maybe I could do this, right? Like, everybody gets a little. What was it for you? Like, how did you decide at 14, 15, 16 years old, like, this is, not only do I love watching this, I want to do this, and these are the steps I'm going to take at this age. How did that process happen?
So I was playing football as a quarterback for my high school, and I liked it. I loved football forever, but high school got toxic. A lot of the kids were really nasty, doing really dumb things. I don't even want to say what the things they would do. They would just. I'll say one thing: they peed in the Gatorade bucket, and just a lot of these Gatorade, like the Gatorade thing you push, and
Yeah,
the
yeah,
water
yeah.
comes out. Yeah, they peed in that, and that was a huge, like, big, like, argument at the school and stuff like that. And a lot of things just turned me off, and I'm like, I love football, but this is not fun. This is not cool anymore. So I was like, I want to wrestle. I wanted to wrestle, and I think I really want to do it now. Now I Google online. There's schools. There's stuff that I could really do this, and I saw other wrestlers have started really young also. So I'm like, okay, if they could do it, so could I. Why can't I?
Yeah.
So I was I was a fan obviously at the time. I went to a meet and greet with Daniel Bryan in the city. It was Daniel Bryan, AJ Lee, Rob Van Dam, and Caitlyn. They were all that was the lineup. And I met Daniel Bryan, and I said I want to. This was this is the week before he wrestled Randy Orton Hell in a Cell, I believe, right?
Okay.
If I'm remembering correctly. And I said, I want to wrestle. This is what I want to do. I want to be a professional wrestler. I want to. You inspire me, and this is what I want to do. And he was so motivating and so inspiring. Talking to him, and just like he gave me the time of day to, like, give me some advice, give me words of wisdom and encouragement. So after that, I was like, that's it. This is what I want to do. I said, let's do it, Dad. Sign me up to school. Let's go. And what he did was he bought me a replica championship. He's all right. To start your journey, I'm buying you a replica belt. Put it in your room, and look at that belt, and that's your goal one day. And it's like, okay, so that's what happened, and I started training, and that was it. And then uh, Brian. He doesn't know this. I never told him this to his face, but he he has really made me the like I'm doing this because of him. Like,
Yeah.
he's inspired me in so many ways. And if I could thank him, I met him at shows, but if I could thank him one more time, I would.
That's amazing.
You have to tell him the story.
And you committed to it, and that is not that you wouldn't be able to, but at 14, 15 years old, you have a very different idea of what life is and what you're gonna do. Listen, but you know what? At the end of the day, I wanted to do radio. I love pro wrestling, and that's what I do. I do radio, and I'm involved with pro wrestling to some level, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Did you started doing it? Now you're 10 years later, 10, right? About 10 years later,
Yeah.
you started 2014. Yeah. So in the decade, did you have moments where you were thinking, maybe this isn't for me? Or were you always persevering, like, no, this is what I'm going to do? There's no excuses.
I'll be honest. I've always said no excuses. I said this is what I want to do. There's no plan B. Like, yes, I have a side job. Yes, I do things. I try to learn other skills, of course, to become as versatile as possible. Because I want to also be able to do other things. But wrestling is my everything. And like I said, there's no plan B. This is everything to me. This is what every day of my life I try to get better in some way of wrestling, whether it's social media, online, promos, character in the ring, in the gym, cardio. I just try to every single day get better than I was yesterday. So for me, there's no quitting, no resting, no stopping, there's no giving up. There's no option to, and that's how I always felt. You know what I mean? There was never doubt in my mind, and I never let that doubt creep in. Like, yes, there's times when you're like, things aren't going your way, or things get canceled, or shows postponed. Things happen sometimes. It's life.
What's
But
the hardest thing, especially on the indie side of things? Ring of Honor, obviously, organized machine to every extent of that you can be. But as far as like independent, you're going to the West Coast this weekend, right? You have a show Saturday, Sunday. You're in Portland. What is the hardest part or the most challenging part of independent wrestling in general?
that's actually a great question. Wow, Andrew, that was good.
I
The
got you with
hardest
that one.
thing.
Because I imagine there's a lot of things that make it difficult. Inexperienced talent or the travel. But for you, what has it been for you?
So I'll be honest. I hear a lot that travel is something that people have problems with. For me, I try to enjoy it as much as possible. I try to enjoy. I try to always like live in the moment wherever I am because it's a blessing to be in these places. It's just amazing to be in these different states and get paid to do it. You know what I mean? I feel like for me, it's just like, wow, this is a privilege. This is just a beautiful thing because not everyone can do that. Not everyone could really do these things. Some people have desk jobs and that they don't want to be at, and it's like I get to do it. So it's like I try to always look at things like I get to do this. You know what I mean? And I'm lucky to do this. So I would say the travel time I do enjoy it, and I try to enjoy it as much as possible. Hard, maybe I would say the hard part is not letting yourself get discouraged, not letting yourself stop. Because say I have 3 shows this weekend. After this weekend, if having 3 shows, Monday I'm gonna come back probably and go right to cryotherapy and right to probably get a massage, right? And you have like that. Those are the things you have to do and have to remind yourself to do because if you
Yeah.
don't, you're gonna pay for it, right? That's why I had that knee injury a few years ago, like when I first started. 'Cause I never stretched. I never trained legs. Never stretched. Never got massages. Never took. Yeah,
Wow.
that was where I really learned to make sure I prioritize my body and every single thing I put in my body and every single thing that I put my body through. And as a wrestler, as a talent, you have to make sure after your matches, you ice, you do the right thing.
I would
So
say,
remembering that is something
it's
that I would say. Sorry, what?
God, I can't remember who it was, but we interviewed somebody years ago, Rich and and I want to say it was Chris Masters, but I'm going to be wrong. I don't want to say who it was, but they said it's exactly what you said. You have to be in a pattern with training, with the recovery, and all these things that you do, and you have to do it in that order every day. He's like, listen, you look like you work out, which I do. I try to work out every day. He goes, but you could skip a couple days. You could skip a couple days and then you go back to it. He goes, I can't. I can't skip a couple days because a couple days could be a detriment.
Mm-hmm.
We saw for WrestleMania, night one, something that people were very much overlooking was how cold it was and how your body reacts to that. And, there was a lot of conversation like guys were a little stiff in the ring. Well, yeah, hell yeah, they're going to be stiff because they're wrestling in 45 degrees. They're in nothing, the guys and the girls, they're wearing nothing. They're trying to heat that ring up as much as they can. They can't. You're outdoors. It's freezing in Philly. That's a variable that people don't see. And that goes right into this. You have to do cryo. You have to do your training. You have to do your massages because if you don't, that injury could happen at any time and it could be far worse. How did you recover from the tear on your knee? Was that because I remember listen, not to make it into a joke, but I remember seeing every photo of you because you stood out to me at that show. And I remember seeing you with that knee brace for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
How did you maintain it?
You have to listen, like every injury, whether it's minor, big, small, you have to take care of your body. Cause like for me as a wrestler, you want to last as long as possible and do this to at 50s, 60s, right? That's the goal for me at least. So I pretty much you got to go to physical therapy. Like, yeah, it costs money. Yeah, insurance takes it too. But when I went to, did take my insurance, of course. Like, of course, the one I go to doesn't take my insurance. But
I was gonna say they gave you
You have
insurance as a wrestler.
what?
I was gonna say they gave you insurance and you're a wrestler.
No. I have my own insurance.
Yeah.
But the PT wouldn't take my insurance.
Yeah.
Didn't take that one that I had. So it was like I had to pay out of pocket for that PT because it was different PT. It was like NFL PT, where like the NFL play. Like, so I went to the top of the line physical therapy, and we paid out of pocket for it, which is a lot of money, but a lot of life savings actually. But they took care of me, and they did cupping, needling, ice, heat, literally every single day it was. And by month 3 I was okay. But I made sure to take extra few months to make sure, like, I'm young, so I was very young, so I wanted to make sure I healed it to almost at least 100% before I even decided to get back in the ring, you know? So yeah, you have to, that's what I would say is, like, you have to really take care of your body every way you can. And also, even what you eat affects you too, you know? Like, I make sure to eat a lot of meat, organ meat, a lot of B-rich vitamins, foods that have vitamin B in it, a lot of that, because it's very, very good for, like, your body, your recovery, and a lot of ice. Ice is very, very good for you. Like, after every match I ice. After every match I ice.
That's
And it's
unbelievable.
just like, yeah, it works. It works.
There's so many variables here. Now, I wanna get your opinion on the current state of wrestling, because this is a very unique time in the entire industry. I mean, how since you started, the last decade has really changed, where you could see everything and anything. Any promotion, every promotion has some sort of videos on there. Social media is a big part of it. It has changed how you discover talent, you discover matches, you discover a favorite promotion. But today, we're in a whole new world, right? You have AEW, which is a secondary competitor to what the narrative of pro wrestling has been over the last 20 some odd years under sports entertainment. Now we're kind of going back to more wrestling, pro wrestling being the center of WWE with this Triple H stuff. Where do you think pro wrestling is headed the next couple of years, and what do you think of the current state of wrestling? Because if you're a fan, this is the best moment. You don't need to trade tapes; it's all there.
Yeah, wrestling's it's crazy because wrestling is literally everywhere, and you don't even need to, like, dig too far to find it. You see a wrestler you like, there's YouTube, TikTok, so every social media there is. Then you got Mondays, Tuesdays. What is it? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday we have wrestling on TV.
And Saturday,
right? And then Saturday Collision, and then you have Indies, and then you have Indie Sundays, and then you have pay-per-view Sundays, and then you have pay-per-view Saturdays. Like, there's just so much. Like, if you're a wrestling fan and you can't get off of it, this is the best time to be a wrestling fan, right? And as for independent wrestlers, it's also really good too, because a lot of companies are really realizing, like, we gotta stream our shows. Because a lot of time throughout the years, like, within the last few years, it's been a lot more than ever, which is great, the best. But before then, like, there were, like, a few companies that weren't streaming their shows, they weren't putting their shows up online, and it's like, yes, I'll wrestle this show. Yes, I'll have my camera and get my own content, but behind the camera videoing you, there's fans watching. And that's one of the most important things that I always remember is if a show is being streamed, if a show is being taped, that will be put on IWTV or Fight TV or Premiere Streaming.
Yeah.
It's like you have no idea who's watching behind that camera, right? So it's the best period as a wrestler and as a fan. As a fan, you have more wrestling than you could ever ask for. As a wrestler, you have places to work, you have options to work for, and you have endless opportunities of just getting better and learning around different people, and it's just great. So I think it's the best period to be a wrestler and a wrestling fan, and the transition of just entertainment to it's just crazy, because I always say wrestling is like everything almost, because, like, do you notice how Saturday and Sunday, obviously you did, it was a story. It was a whole story. It was a story from the minute it started to the minute it finished with Cody winning. It was a story being told throughout the whole event. Just like a movie. Better than a movie.
Yeah.
It was a lot, you know what I mean?
And that's a great thing, right? When it's good, right? When it's done right and they hit it, it's fantastic. And you're right. Beginning to end, they told the story over 2 days. They've been telling the story for 2 years, And it's kind of rare to have patience in wrestling. between the
Mm-hmm.
promotion, the talent, and the fans. Patience
Mm-hmm.
is something, but when it's done right, I mean, it's as old school as you go. You know, they're essentially telling how this is an extension of Dusty Rhodes and his story of never winning that title
Yep.
in WWE, which is unbelievable. You know, I was telling my kids this, and I got young kids. My daughter's 8, my son is 7, right? And they're so into wrestling right now. My daughter's more into it than my son, but they're so into it. They love it. I think kind of it is the perks of my job too. You know, they get to go to the
Mm-hmm.
garden, they get to go hear it. They love it. And my daughter is like, "Oh, why don't we watch old wrestling?" That's what she says. So I had Mid South on. So I was like, "All right, let's watch it." And I was
Love
explaining who
that.
people are. And I had to, and I was like, man, as a kid, I would have never seen this. The only way I would be able to see anything outside of what's on, you know, WWF TV or WCW was what I discovered the wrestling universe. I don't know if you've been there or not here in Queens. I
No.
think it's a wrestling shop, right? And this guy, Jack, owns it. He's a promoter also. He's owned it for years. I think there might be one in Staten Island now. I don't know. There's one in Long Island, I think. You used
What's
to
it
go to
called?
his wrestling universe.
Well, I have to go. It's in Queens. I got to go to that.
It's in
That
Queens.
that sounds awesome.
It's right by me. It's in Bayside. And you would go there, and he had wall to wall tapes. I don't think he's tape trained, and you would rent the tapes from him, or you
Wow.
would buy a tape. And
Old
I would
school.
old school. And the first time I saw Masawa Kawada was through that store. Mick Foley's death match with Terry Funk, that
Oh my
tournament.
gosh.
I still have the tape. And that was the only way you could get it. I also had a cousin that lived in Florida that got some weird wrestling, and he would mail me the tapes. He would
That's,
record and mail me tapes. That was the only way. Now,
mhm.
you want to watch OVW? It's right there. You want to watch anything? It's right there. Whatever promotion, whatever, you know, indie promotion you could think of that you're interested in, it's there. I think that's unbelievable. I don't believe in too much saturation. Some people argue it's too much wrestling out there. No, it's not. It's enough wrestling for the people. If you want to watch everything, you can. And you got
Mhm.
different taste. You
Yep.
know, like but knowing you're bringing up Danielson, you and I have a very similar style that we like with wrestling. But
Mhm.
listen, I'm not a deathmatch guy, but you know what? There's a tremendous amount of talent on the deathmatch side of things, and
Yep.
they're doing unbelievable stuff. And you know what? And that's great. And there's an audience for that.
Mhm.
It's a
Yep.
very different time. For you though, what do you do to break out? Like what are things that you do to make sure your matches are getting in front of the right people?
So I get this asked a lot. Like, how do I get to where? How do I get this next level? Like, how do I get? Like I said, I've been so blessed and so lucky to be in the spot that I'm in, and I try to give my best advice every time I'm asked. I love helping people out, so I try to always give my best answer. How do I? I'll tell you what. As soon as I had my character change from the kid to Power Punch and actually become who I am as a wrestler and a talent and a brand and get sponsored by Bang and G Fuel and the like, it really set me apart, I feel like. And that's when I really started being getting eyes on me. So I had, I guess, outside influence help me grow a lot. Like I also recently just did a collab video with Renee Graziano from Mob Wives. Like I've gotten
Yeah.
to do some really, really cool things, you
I've
know?
interviewed Renee. I've interviewed
No
Renee
way.
in a weird universe. Yeah, I've
That's
interviewed
sick.
Renee. Yeah.
How cool is she?
She was great. She was fantastic. I mean, this is
Wait,
when the
interviewed her
show was
where?
like Renee. I
For what?
interviewed. So I used to do a show out of Sapphire. Okay, years
Mm-hmm.
ago with I used to produce it with Chauncey Hayden. He was on the Stern Show. Step in
Okay.
That magazine, big time magazine in Jersey, and it was essentially, you know, a bar rag. He would do a couple celebrity interviews, and it was just bar advertising. But he would get all these, you know,
So cool.
reality stars, like all the Jersey Shore kids at the time, all of them. And we had Renee on. And this is, I believe, right before she got that plastic surgery that she ended up almost dying in that hospital.
Oh wow.
Okay. I think she came on with the doctor to talk about her getting the
That's so
surgery.
that's funny. That's cool. Wow.
And I'll tell you a story off the air. I'll tell you a little story. She was great. She was fantastic. We had her on. We had all of them. We had Big Ange.
Oh
Big
wow.
Ange came on. I mean, we had all of the reality stars on that show. She was great. I
Wow.
had a blast with her. Sorry,
No, please. That's wild. I
yeah,
love
she was
that.
great.
Yeah. It happened out of nowhere. Like I have I'm Staten Island. I have friends and like, oh Vinny, like, you know, Renee's my friend. Can I introduce you? And like, I'm sure. And I was telling her what I do, who I am, and I showed her my I do these wrestling energy drink skits. She's like, oh my god, we gotta do one. And that she's so cool. She was so cool. But yeah, so I say my advice would be like for anybody who asks, how do I get to the next level? Like literally everything you can do to like get to that next level, you do. Like for me, it's like I do these crazy. First of all, I make sure every match I have is really like I try to be best I can every match, right? That's one. In the ring, you have to always try to make sure you're the best you can be in the ring every single week. That's one. But that goes without saying, right? Like make sure you train properly, make sure you're safe, make sure you're talented, make sure you include the audience in your stuff, and make sure you're just a good wrestler. You know, just be a as good as you can as a wrestler. That's one. But two, try and have outside influences. This is not only wrestling. This is a showbiz, right? You have social medias. Use social media to your advantage every way possible. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, everything. And there's no social media that you say, oh, Facebook, I don't use that anymore because it's whatever they say, whatever. Facebook's for family and friends. Okay, it can be, yes, but it's
No,
also
everywhere.
very
Yeah.
helpful for wrestling. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And promoters are all there and stuff like that. So I say don't leave any stone unturned, right? So now I'm also in the energy drink business, right? I'm dealing with huge energy drink names. You know what I mean? Like who am I? I can't really say names yet because I'm working on some collabs, but like there's some really popular people who I'm working with, and now from being that, I'm possibly gonna be sponsored by a candy brand, and then from that, possibly a T-shirt brand,
That's
and
amazing.
it's just like so many things just come from small things, and another thing I like to say is snowball effect. You have a snowball and you roll it, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's when things are picking up, and then things start to pick up in wrestling, and then that's how things happen. You know, you just can't stop, can't get discouraged. You have to have your head up and work hard always. But like I said, leave no stone unturned. You know, be the best you can be in the ring, and then when you have a character, you have something to work with. You do your best, and also don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to get the answer no. You know, if you a lot of people are worried about messaging certain companies. Like if companies like say I've heard some kids say, "Oh, I'm afraid to message AEW or afraid to message GCW, whatever." Like I understand those are very big companies, but don't be afraid. You may have something that they like. You never know.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid for the no. If you get a no, at least you know. Okay, now I know what to do to get better. Now at least I know what I have to do to like become just better so that I can get there eventually. You know what I mean? So I just always believe don't be afraid of the word no. Use it as motivation to get better and just don't be afraid. You know, we're all human beings. We're all people who have feelings. You know, so we're all the same. You know.
I agree with you. Perseverance is number one, and also if you never ask, you have no idea. There is no no.
Yep.
You have no idea, and I, I every opportunity, take it.
Mm-hmm.
Every
Yep.
opportunity. You don't know where it leads. It could be nothing now, right? You could be. Listen, one of my buddies, he told me this great story about a talent that was terrible in the ring. He's a veteran at this point, and he was at an independent show, and he was helping out talent, and this kid was getting just bullied by everybody. Not bullied,
Mm-hmm.
but wasn't being treated great. He took the
Mm-hmm.
time. He ended up helping the kid out. The kid ended up being a big name in wrestling.
Wow.
Okay, and it was repaid to him later down the road. There was an opportunity where he needed something, and guess what? It was there. You don't know who people will end up being. Treat
Yep.
everybody nice. Treat everybody respectfully. That's my whole approach. I don't do the wrestling beefs on Twitter. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
To argue
Yep.
over wrestling. Like what you like. Don't like what you don't like. It's fine. Whatever. You like AEW, you like AEW. You like WWE, that's fine. Who cares? But
Exactly.
but at the end
Exactly.
of the day, it's amazing that we're in this period where we have opportunity to watch whatever we want to watch. Vinny, what do you
Mm-hmm.
have coming up? Give us the details. Where are you? Where are you going? Where can people find you?
So many indies really right now. It's a lot of indies, a lot of things that are waiting to happen,
What are you
right?
doing here in New
But
York? I need to come see you now.
when am I in New York? I'm in Jersey May 4th. Are you around there?
My
New
daughter's
Jersey or
communion.
no?
My daughter's communion.
Gotcha. Oh, May the 4th. Okay.
Yeah, on May the 4th is my daughter's
Yeah, right.
communion.
Very nice though. God bless. When am I in New York? I don't know when I'm in New York. I'll let you know, obviously, of course. But I am in New Jersey a few times. I'm going to Seattle Friday, Portland, Oregon Saturday, Portland, Oregon Sunday, and let's mention I love the PNW. Always love working there. May is stacked. I have Chicago, BLP, the 5th. Um, the 4th, I'm going to be 80s WrestleCon, ISPW. The 11th, I'm going to be in Atlanta. 12th, I'm going to be in Pennsylvania, 18th, New Jersey, and then I have a wedding. So I have to wrestle and go to a wedding. 25th and 26th, I'm in California. June is insane, but I'll just get to where I'm gonna. August, I'm gonna be doing a tour in the UK and possibly France. I'm probably gonna be there for like 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. That I'm excited. That I'm excited for. So I'm gonna try and see if I could do the shows, and then after the shows are done, have my wife come out with me, and we'll do like a little vacation together because I like to give her a reward. You know, she's really motivated me and pushed me beyond belief, and she's been there since I'm 20 years old. You know,
That's amazing.
so yeah, and I just Ring of Honor stopped. I stopped working with Ring of Honor at that time, so it was like, well, actually, then COVID hit, so it was like a whole bunch of like things that happened when I was 20. So it's like, wait, whatever. So it was like, she stayed during all the times when I was down,
Yeah.
right? Ring of Honor. I didn't work with Ring of Honor after a certain point. So they stopped using me at some point. Because they went a different direction. So then I was like, whatever. But then it was fine. Then through that process, I went to Evolve, did a little bit of NXT stuff. So like she was there for ups and downs, you know. And I always believe you have to give. I want to give back to people who've been there for me since day one. So I'm
And
very
that's
lucky, like I
amazing.
said.
To have that
Thank you.
support,
Yeah.
behind you. Listen, I got a great wife too. I got
Mm-hmm.
and I really, when we were talking off the air about this, and you were telling me how much she has supported you, and it's been, having her has been such a motivator for you. I feel the same. I quit my day job and I was like, I'm gonna do this podcasting thing. Right when we got married, we bought a house, I got a new
Wow.
car, and then I got laid off. And I'm like, I'm never going back to work. I'm done. I'm gonna work for myself. I'll figure it out. This was then. Obviously, I ended up going back to work years later, and I ended up doing other things. But to have someone that's like, okay, we'll figure it out. What are we doing
Yep.
next? That is unbelievable, and that will
Mm-hmm.
only help in your career. To know that you
Yep.
don't have this trouble in the back of your head. Oh my God, I've been traveling so much. She's upset or whatever's going on. She's not supporting my career decision. Am I making the right career choice? Is this really a sacrifice I want to do? To have that peace
Yep.
only helps.
Andrew, nail on the head. You just hit and I'll even say this right now. When I knew she was the one, I mean, the wedding venue was bought, paid for already, but when I really knew, her mother passed away last January, and I was booked for AEW January 4th. And she was so supportive of me still going. She didn't even think to say, "Oh, don't go, babe." She was like, "Go kill it, have a good time, and I love you, and I'll be here waiting for you." So it was
It's
like
amazing.
that's when I knew, like, okay, like she cares about my, you know what I mean. And I also made sure my mom stayed with her while I was away because no one wants to be alone when the mom passes away. So my mom was there for her. But just knowing that I had that was so important to me. And yeah, so you just hit the nail on the head. I always say having a supportive partner is literally a superpower.
Yeah.
And also, I'm gonna say this now. There's opportunity that I was gifted to be. I can't get too much into it, but to be brought into the big screens, coming very soon. I was a part of a very very cool opportunity, a movie type deal, and I got her booked for it. So it's
Awesome.
like, yeah. So it's like it's. I felt like, long story short, I'm a side story. We did a horror photo shoot for our engagement, and she was so good at acting for that photo shoot for the horror part. So I was like, "You're a great actress. Like I know you are." So I told the guy, "Hey, give her a shot." They gave her a shot, and we did this movie,
That's
and it's coming
amazing.
very soon. And
That's unbelievable.
thank you,
That's
thank you.
unbelievable. I
Yeah,
love hearing those stories. Vinny, this was awesome. I want to do it again. Let's make this a regular thing, please.
love it. Thank you,
This
Andrew.
was
I had
awesome.
I had a blast.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed our time together. We had Vinny Pacifico. I'll have all the links in the chat. I'll have all the links in the show notes. But we're going to be doing these more and more. and I'm glad that you guys are here for the ride. Until next time, guys. See you next time.